Oh, hi, my name is Roy Canterbury. I'm going to be hosting on Archery Talk 101. And we have Dennis on the line with us, and we're going to find out what's going on in his world. Welcome to the show, Dennis.
Thank you for allowing me on. My name is Dennis Theriault. I live in Maine. I've lived here since I was 3 years old. My parents grew up in Maine, though. And I got into hunting when I was younger and taxidermy later on. And here I am today, retired at 67.
Yeah, yeah, that's quite a journey. And just before we get started, you mentioned that in Maine, Sunday is a no hunting day.
Yes, it is. One of the rare states.
So that's what makes it nice because we can chat on Sunday about hunting.
That's true, but a lot of hunters don't like it because when you only get 2 days off to hunt, when you're working 5 days a week, they fought a long time to try to get
Yeah,
hunting in Maine. If it had been passed years ago, it would have probably passed, but now it's harder to get things passed.
yeah. Well, and I don't know what the deal is, why hunting on Sunday is such a problem. Um, there are places that have, other restrictions. It's kind of nice in Nebraska, and once the season starts, it starts half hour before sunrise and then ends half hour after sunset, the last day of it, and it goes, like our archery season starts September 1st and goes to December 31st, and with no breaks in it anymore. It used to have a break during firearm season, but now it goes the whole time, and there's one season for rifle, and then there's muzzleloader season, and then a late January firearm season, and they make it simple. Other states
Yeah,
like
our seasons are short in Maine. When I grew up, we only had the month of October for archery hunting, and then we had 4 weeks of deer season in November. It started 4 weeks before Thanksgiving, and then they added muzzleloading season after the gun season, and then I don't know, maybe 15 years ago, they added a special archery season, which opens up the Saturday after Labor Day and goes all the way until 2 weeks after Thanksgiving. And it's basically was designed to hunt urban areas. It's only small areas where there's houses everywhere. I mean, I shot 3 deer last year on a guy's piece of property. He only owns 2 acres. Of course, the deer leave the property. And in Maine, and I don't know how Nebraska is, but in Maine, you can track a deer onto somebody else's property without having to ask them permission. You need permission to put a tree stand up or cameras on somebody's land, but the track a deer, as long as it's not posted, you can track an animal. And in Maine, it's a general rule that if somebody doesn't post their land, you can hunt it. There are requirements as far as, you need permission to put a tree stand up. But if you want to just walk in on somebody's property and hunt it, you're welcome to it.
oh yeah, completely different here in Nebraska. If you shoot a deer and it goes on someone else's property, you get to ask them permission to go on their property to retrieve it. And if they don't allow you, well, game and parks can get involved, and if they go recover it themselves, then they're poaching. And so um now if you're walking on their property, you don't want to be hunting while you're on there, but um if you're out where you're hunting, and your deer runs out of their land, and you definitely shot it not on their land, because a lot of times you have permission to hunt and you're right on a fence line, and they're walking
You
down, who
know,
knows
it's
which way they run.
Well, every state is so different. I mean, and that's why I understand a lot of states are a lot harder to hunt than Maine, but Maine, it's changing. More people are posting their land, but that's really the only thing that's keeping you off their land if somebody posts it, which is nice. But I'm 67, so I grew up where when I was a kid, you could hunt anyways. There was hardly any land posted. There's being more posted and posted.
Yeah,
But it's nice that they created this expanded zone because they want to thin out the deer in around, where there's houses. And most of it's right along the coast from the ocean, and that's where the bulk of the people live.
yeah, yeah. Well, and hunting in urban areas, archery is going to be probably the only way you're going to do it, because they're not going to allow firearms in a, fairly congested area where there's, houses fairly close around. And
Well, it's so hard. Do you have um, a rule out in Nebraska? In Maine, you have to be 100 yards from a house or a dwelling before you can discharge a firearm,
yes,
unless you have permission from the people that you're shooting within. And they changed it a few years ago that even your projectile has to be 100 yards now. Before it used to be just you, but now your projectile has to be. So basically, if a deer standing 75 yards from somebody's house, you're 150 yards from him, you can't shoot that deer.
because the deer is within that 100 yards of the,
That's right.
yeah.
So,
Well, and,
and
and
it's
I've
just,
talked to
it's
people
just,
that have had, bullets, come flying at their house, and some of them think that they have the right to shoot, and it's like, no, you're shooting towards my house. And I know when I was out last time with a firearm, it's like, I took my cameras, video and stuff. Hopefully I get, some good
yeah.
pictures, and I'm kind of going over the area, and it's like, well, I'm on top of a hill shooting down where I have, because I don't have permission on the other side of the fence where the other house is at. But it's like, okay, that house is over here. And so I can't shoot any deer that's anywhere in that direction,
Oh, yeah,
because I
definitely.
don't want to take a chance. It could get a ricochet, or who knows.
Yeah.
So I kind of limit, and here's a farmer's house. And then, so I always look and see, okay, where are the houses? Now, this one house might be a quarter of a mile away, but if I'm shooting at a deer on top of the hill, I could still hit the house.
Yep. And that's the big thing about safety. It's just making sure you know what's behind you, what you're shooting at, and what's behind that deer.
Yeah. Even with archery, you're a lot closer range. You're not, most people don't take those 100-yard shots at deer. There are a few that will do that. Um, you're probably like me. It's like, I can't see a deer good enough at 100 yards, and let alone see my pin to put it over the deer at 100 yards. So I'm not taking that 100-yard shot with my bow.
Well, I'm only a 40 yard man. I look at it this way. I don't need a deer that bad that I won't shoot past 40 yards. I feel comfortable enough that I can kill a deer at 40. Why shoot 50 or 60 yards? I'm a 40 yard, and I started archery hunting. I wish I knew, but I started archery hunting before I was legally supposed to hunt. I was like 14, 15 years old, and I bought an archery license, and they sold it to me. And in Maine, you can't go archery hunting or gun hunting by yourself unless you're 16 or older and you've taken a hunter safety course. But back when I started, my neighbor got me interested in it, and I come home from school and grab my bow and go hunting. I mean, that was back in the 70s, and nobody ever said anything. Of course, I never shot anything. I didn't shoot my first deer with a bow until 80, 86, 1986. And I was what? I was born in 57. So I was older than I should have been, but
Yeah,
shot
it
at a
took,
lot of deer, but missed them, just like a lot of people.
yeah, it,
Now,
it took me quite a while
now
to get my first deer.
do you do a lot? Does Nebraska have a crossbow license, or is it just you can use anything?
It used to be, in order to use a crossbow, you had to be handicapped, where you couldn't draw a
Yeah,
traditional or a compound bow for archery season, but it was valid during rifle. But they've since changed that. So archery, a crossbow is a valid archery weapon for anybody during
yeah.
archery season. And
Maine had, I think, in 2000 or 2019, they had a 3 year period where they allowed crossbow in the general archery season, but not in the expanded archery. And then this past summer, well, actually, before that, you had to be, like you said, disabled, or you had to be 65 and older, and then you could crossbow hunt. But this past summer, they took all the crossbow laws out and they just added them in with the general archery season. I'm gonna be the first to admit it. I don't know if I'm lazy, but or lose muscle strength, but the last time I shot a deer with a compound bow was in when I was 63. So that was 4 years ago, and it's basically I don't have the strength to hold it back for much more than 30 seconds to a minute. So
yeah,
I've switched over to crossbow. I love it. It's a lot easier. I mean, I've killed 5 deer this year, all does, and all in the expanded zone where I have one lady that wants all the deer shot, but I only shot two on her property right now. I won't shoot anymore until I shoot a buck. But I use a crossbow now all the time.
Well, and that's a nice thing. It keeps you in the field if you can't shoot one of the other type of bows, or let's say you don't have the time to put in the effort it needs to shoot traditional equipment, which is a lot of time to get good enough to hunt with it. And compounds, it still takes quite a bit of time, practicing with it. But nice enough that crossbow, um, it
It's
don't
like
take
picking up a
near
gun.
the practice. Yeah, it's like picking up a rifle. A couple
Yeah.
shots make sure your sights are on and you're good to go. You don't have to do a lot of practicing.
But I think as you get older and you mentioned time, we all find time to do the things we want to do.
Right.
And even though I'm retired, I have the time that I could build up my muscles and exercise more and be able to use a compound. But I just choose not to, I guess. I don't know. I've got other things that I just do. And you know how people just don't like to exercise or stuff and
Yeah. Yeah.
just happens.
Yeah. Well, our priorities change, when we're younger, it's like shooting our bow every day, going on 3D shoots and hunting, that's all we're doing. And as we get older, it's like, well, we got other interests that we're doing and we have to kind of determine um, you know, which one we'd rather do and and do it. And right now for me, I get to talk to archers, from all over the world, and that's pretty cool in the fact that I can talk to you, you're in Maine and I'm in Nebraska, and or sometimes I talk to somebody in Germany or wherever all over the world, and it's nice to be able to talk to different archers and get their views and everything else, and it's really cool and find out what you're doing. And I know you've got you started doing some buckskin, creating some of that. I know that's kind of interesting. I actually have a book that says what does it say, buckskin, deerskin to buckskins or something like that. How to do it. I've never done it yet, but I did have a kid that worked for me that brain tanned a hide and then smoked it and everything else, and it's pretty cool. So that's something I'd like to hear about. What how did you get into creating buckskin, and what does it take to create one?
Well, there is a deer hide behind me that I did with brain tanning. I'll never do another one. It didn't come out good. But basically, after I retired, I needed something to do. So I've always been a creator. Of course, being that I was in business since 1984, since I was 28, I wanted to make some buckskin with all the deer that I shot. So 2 years ago, I started saving all the hides, and I've tanned up 12 of them so far. Um, they it's a commercial tan that I buy from a company called Mackenzie and follow the directions. And I had to build a tumbler in order to do it. And I built a breaker. It's a thing that breaks down the hide, but it's a lot of manual labor for somebody who wants to do it themselves because if you don't have a tumbler or a breaker, you got to break it down like on the corner of a table, which is a lot more time consuming. My breaker, I probably spend less than 10 minutes on the hide, but I'll tumble it in my tumbler for 2 30-minute spells. And then the only thing after that is to smoke it. And smoking, it's a time consuming thing. I have to do it, it takes 6 or 8 hours to smoke my hides. I usually smoke 5, 6 at a time. I built a smoker, and in order for it to be smoke good, that's how long. Do you know why deer hides have to be smoked?
No, I don't, but I know it keeps them, makes them, changes them somehow, and
Okay.
they last for hundreds of years.
Have you ever wore a pair of leather gloves and got them wet and then dried them out and they're stiff?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Now, if you don't smoke a deer hide and you get it wet, when it dries, it's going to be stiff and you're never going to be able to use it again. But something about, and don't ask me the technical terms, but something about smoking it allows you to get it wet and then reuse it. So that's what the smoking does. And other than it changes the color a little bit, but that's the main reason why people smoke stuff. I mean, you don't have to smoke something if you don't ever plan on getting it wet. So
Yeah.
it's like, I don't know, can you see? No, you can't see it. Let me stand up a second. You see this pouch right here?
Oh, yeah.
I made I made that out of a beaver that I tanned. And the reason I made that is like it was a pistol holder and it's right on my just below my left chest. And I always know where my cell phone is because that's what I put my cell phone in. So I don't have to search which pocket it's in. But now that thing there is something that probably never would get wet, so it doesn't have to be smoked. But I did smoke it. But that's what smoking does. It allows you to get something wet and reuse it.
That's interesting.
So that's
I
how I
know the
get
process
into
was
that's
smoking,
how
but
I
I
get
wasn't.
into yeah. Well, a lot of people don't know what well, there's so many things out in this world that happen that nobody knows the reason why until somebody explains it to them.
Yeah. Well, and the old saying, don't have enough brains to tan their own hide. That's because an animal has enough brains to tan the hide. And you said you tried brain tanning once. How
No,
did that go?
I've tried it 3 times. I tried it back about 7 or 8 years ago when I was still doing taxidermy, actually probably 10 years ago. And I actually used two brains because some of the YouTube videos I watch says it doesn't hurt to use extra. But I couldn't get it soft. What happens is once you brain tan it, as you let it dry, you have to work it. Like I said, you have to work it over the corner of a table, or you have to have a tumbler or a breaker. Well, back then I didn't have a tumbler or a breaker, but I tried to break it down on corner of a table, and I think I spent like 8 to 10 hours working that, and my muscles were all sore, and I just gave up and put it in the freezer and tried it another day, and basically it never softened up. So when I built my tumbler, the first thing I did was try to brain tan one, and it came out, but it's a lot wrinkly and it's nowhere near as soft as the ones that I use chemicals. And then this past year, I said, well, I'm going to try another one, and I did, and it just didn't come out. It's just the same way. It's wrinkly. It's not as soft and pliable as the ones that I do with the chemicals. So I I'm sure there's people that can do it. I just haven't figured that out yet. And I'm kind of like, once you know how to do something one way, you kind of go back to that way. And
Yeah.
like I said, I've tanned 12 or 14 hides with that chemical, and every one of them has come out good. The only one that didn't come out good was the first one I ever did. And I tweaked a few things, watched a couple more videos. Now they come out really good, and I'm gonna make a jacket and a shirt this year with the hides that I tanned and the ones that I'm gonna do this year.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, when you hear about it and you like I said, I've got a book told how to do it, but I've never tried it. And there for a while, I was saving all my hides, and I had a whole bunch of hides, and they had them all dried out, and then, of course, divorced, and they all end up disappearing, and you know, one of those things that you don't
There's a
have
lot of
anymore. So
there's a lot of manual labor into tanning something into buckskin or even with the hair on. Basically, these companies that do it, they have all machines, but somebody doing it individually, they don't have that. So
no,
it's manual labor.
yeah. And what I did is I made a conduit frame, and I sewed the hides onto it and then scraped all the stuff off
Yeah.
of it and salted it down to get them dried. And that's where all my hides were, except those that were still in the freezer. And I hated losing all those because that was a lot of work to just who knows what happened to it.
A lot of work goes into everything that we do that, you know, companies can do commercially. So,
But
so how
it,
did you get into archery hunting?
when I was a kid, I picked up archery, back in the '60s when, we had recurves and longbows and wood arrows or wood arrows, or you could do fiberglass for bow fishing, uh, and we shot feathers, and I just started doing that, and then as I got older, my brother got a compound bow, and then I got that, and then I finally started hunting, with a friend of ours that grew up across the street from him. We finally started going out deer hunting, and we started off with if I seen a print in the dirt, it was a good day. Yeah, just the fact I seen a print of a deer that had made in the mud sometime when it was wet. And then it got where, hey, I seen a deer. Might be running through a field as we driving home or driving out or something. And then as you get more, you figure out how to do it because I didn't have anybody that, told us how to do it. We just went out there and basically just climbed up trees and stood on a limb, no safety belt or nothing. And then you know, you tie a rope on so you wouldn't fall off, but that wouldn't have helped you much. And then had just a waist belt, and then now we use full body harnesses and climbing lines and all kinds of stuff to make you safe in the tree stands. But we started off with we didn't have anything. We didn't know.
No, well, neither did I. I don't wear a harness. I never worn one. I've always hunted out of ladder tree stands that I built for myself, and they're all basically enclosed. So yeah, I can fall out of it. I strap the tree stand to the tree when I climb the ladder to begin with and secure it. But I don't, once I'm in the tree stand, it's hot. I mean, I got railings right on the side of it in me, and I got a bar in front of me, especially when gun hunt if I need to rest a gun on it. So, but it's a different style of tree stand that I built, design. It's pretty hard to fall out of it. I'll tell you that. The only way that you can fall out of it, and I think the only way that it would hurt somebody or myself, is if when I was putting it up and climbing up a ladder. And I don't know of anybody that uses a harness climbing up a ladder to go, even if it's leaning up against their house. So, and
Yeah,
I got a string that I just pull everything up after I get there. So I'm going up a ladder. Basically, that's it. And then when I get in the thing, there's a lot of ladder tree stands, but this is one I designed for myself, and it's not high. It's only an 8 foot. Well, actually, it's a 16-foot ladder. It's an extension ladder, so I'm only hunting 12 feet off the ground.
yeah. So you're not too high up, but
No,
still, you've got rails that you're not going to just fall off.
right.
As long as the whole thing don't fall down, you're okay.
Well, it's got two straps on it. It's got a safe. It's got plus it's padlocked, so that even the cable will hold it from falling down. But basically, I put a strap around the base and a strap around the seat part that clamps to the tree. So it's got two ratchet straps. Plus, it's got a cable around it. Only because we have some people that think they can steal stuff and they own everything. But
Yeah.
you know what that is.
Yeah, there's a few of them out there that think that they deserve everything anybody else has, and they
Yeah.
want it, and yeah,
So
they'll figure it out later. Sometime they'll
they
figure
always
out that
do.
that was not a good thing to do. But
So
so
let's transition to something else. Let me ask you a
great,
personal question.
sure.
Do you have a journal? Do you know how many deer you've shot in your lifetime?
I haven't logged it. I haven't kept a journal of all of them that I've killed. Um, I've killed a few.
And see,
I think
now
one with a rifle, and the rest have been archery.
now I shot my first deer when I was 12. So I'm 67. So that's what, 66 years, 67, 57 years ago. And I've shot a lot of deer, and I could sit down and know how many bears I've shot because I got a kind of like a diary, a journal, whatever you want to call it. Whenever we went up to camp, we always wrote down what we were there for, and if we killed anything, we always wrote it down. That's the only thing that I could sit down and look back and tell you how many bears I've shot. And I'm probably close to 20 now. But everything else in life, well, I did shoot one moose, and that's only because it's a lottery, and that's the only time I got picked. So that's why I created an app for our customers so they can have their own journal or diary, whatever you want to call it. Um, because even if you remember things you shot, everybody remembers their first deer they shot. Most people do, but they
Right.
don't remember their second, third, or fourth, or so on. And there's always little bits and pieces that 30 years from now you're not going to remember. But if you have a journal to put them in, it's like my son just got picked for a moose this past season, and I must have, I don't know, I probably have 300 or 400 words in my notes of how the hunt went and stuff. So, of course, I'm 67, so I don't have so many years to look back at it, but my son put it in his journal and stuff. And so that's why I created an app. And it all started this past winter when somebody asked me, I was ice fishing, and somebody asked me how many fish I've caught in my lifetime ice fishing. And then they asked me how many deer. And I says, I don't know. So I searched around to see if there was any journals like that, and there wasn't. So that's why I had this app created. It's called My Wildlife Harvest and stuff. So it's interesting. But it's getting the word out. It's just like everything about you're older than me, so if you got a business,
Yeah.
advertising's the best advertising is word of mouth.
Well, here's,
And oh,
yep.
where'd you go? Oh,
Yeah, I brought up the app so that we can um, kind
see
of
it.
talk about for those that are listening, we'll try and describe what we have, but the best way is to watch it. If you go out to Arch Talk One on Facebook group, you'll be able to see this video as well as go out to my YouTube channel, Learn to Fix It Yourself, and you'll be able to watch this video. And right now, I actually went live on my profile, so you can go out to my profile and catch this one. But yeah, I'll just have you go ahead and tell us about what's on here and how to use it
Okay,
and
so basically, the whole thing is it's got a 30-day free trial. It does cost $24.99 a year after you've gone through the free trial. But basically, when you shoot something, you have you can create it's what they call create an event. So if you're right there, the minute you shoot the deer or whatever you shoot, most people walk up to it and take pictures of it. Now, if you open up the app and you take a picture of it, well, first thing you got to do is create a category. So if you're out there, we'll say deer hunting with a bow, or you can even categorize it as crossbow or longbow, whatever you want. Once you've created a category, the next thing you do is if you shot a deer, you just click. If you shot one, you just make a number one, and then you scroll down and you can write notes into anything about the hunt that you want. And then you scroll down and you take a picture and then you submit it and it's saved. It's also gonna, if you have service, you need service to do this. That's the only bad thing about it. We haven't figured out if we want to go offline, but right now, so if you have service, it's actually gonna put the location. It usually puts in a street address, or if you're way out in the woods, it'll just put somewhere's in the woods, and it will actually put a dot on the map where you are. After that, you click save it, and maybe 2 days later or the next day, you want to edit it. You can go and edit it and add more notes. You can even add more pictures. You can't change the time that you shot it, but if you wanted to put in, we'll say you shot a deer 2 weeks ago and you didn't create an event, you can go create an event for that deer you shot 2 weeks ago and put in the date when you create the event. You can't you can't change the address. So it's not going to be the right address as to where you were, but you can take pictures and put them in. So that's how the app works. And you can save it. And like I said, you can go and edit it and you can add notes to it. And later on down the road, like the app's only been done since August of this past year. But in 10 years from now, you can go click on, we'll just say archery longbow, and it will tell you up on the top how many you've shot in your lifetime. And then below that, it's going to have 2024, and it's going to have how many you shot in 2024. So you'll know how many deer you shot with a longbow since you started this app. The other thing is you can also go into the events and you can look up all, you can go to they call it an event, view events, and you can just, there'll be a drop down menu. You can click on longbow and it's going to show you all the longbows that deer you shot or whatever you shot with a longbow, but we've got it in deer category. It's not, it's some of these videos, there's a video page that shows all this stuff, but it's going to show you all them that you've gotten by year from the newest to the oldest. And if you want to go click on 2017 or, 2018, you can go and read up on it. The same thing goes with the images. If you know how when you got a cell phone, all your pictures are basically all mixed up.
Right.
With this app, you can go to the view images and you can click on archery longbow, and it's going to show you all the pictures just of the longbow one. If you have one that says, well, you said you shot one deer with your gun, if you'd have clicked on deer gun, it would show you just that one deer. But it kind of organizes your pictures so you can look at them in the categories that you listed them as. So that's basically how the app works. There's a lot more that we could add to it, but it's hard because there's a lot of other apps that cover some of that stuff. So that's basically where we're starting right now. It's made for hunters, trappers, fishermen. Some people might want to track how many fish they catch and how much they catch and release. Guess I won't answer that phone. So that's basically how the app works. I always tell my customers or people ask me about it is to go to my page and watch some of the videos, because the videos explain a lot more than trying to explain in a short time.
Yeah, that's always nice when you have videos out there tell you what's going on and everything else. So yeah, that's pretty good. Now, how long did you say you've had this app going?
It just got finished in August, so it
August.
hasn't
Okay.
been, yeah, it hasn't been out there. I've got 31 people that's actually signed up for it. I just hired a firm to advertise it, and actually I was kind of a little shocked that I woke up this morning and I had 5 new people signed up for it. But
Oh,
it could be because I promoted it on Facebook. And Maine deer season started yesterday, so some of the people probably says, well, I might as well start using this app. I got 30 days to use it. And that's could be one of the reasons. I don't know. I don't have the locations of where these people that sign up. I have their email address, but I don't have nothing else. I can't tell where they're from, what part of the country they're from. So all I can see is a members list with an email address that they use to sign up. And you can't go by a phone number, but I have their phone number because most people are signing up with a smartphone. But I can't.
yeah.
Phone numbers don't mean nothing today, because somebody from California can be living in Maine and have a California number, and vice versa. My nephew's in Alaska and he's got a Maine number.
Yeah, you
So
don't have to change in that, especially with cell phones. It doesn't
right,
matter where you. I had because I was in Des Moines. I got a new phone or something, so I had a area code was from Des Moines, but I live in Omaha, or outside of Omaha. But yeah, it used to be you could tell by the prefix where they was what part of the town it was in, and now as people move around, they keep the same numbers no matter where they're at, and
yeah.
um, yeah, so. I could have this same phone number that I have now, which is a 402 area code, and live anywhere in the country.
We are fortunate right now. I live in Maine and we only have one area code right now. They say we have enough numbers probably until the next 6 or 7 years before all the numbers get used, and then they're gonna have to change or add another area code. So, but like I said, my nephew lives in Alaska and he's got a Maine area code number. So,
Yeah,
but that's pretty much how my app works. Go ahead and check it out.
yeah, yeah, and I'll put a link in the description to make it easier to get to them, but it's real easy. It's mywildlifeharvest.com. So makes it easy.
Yeah, and on my website, I don't know if you noticed, there's actually a link for Apple users and for
Right.
Android users or Google Play to be able to download it right from my website, so they don't have to go search for it in their Apple Store or their Google Play Store.
Yeah, you just bring it up on your phone and download it, and away you go.
This is new to me. I never had a smartphone until about 10 months ago.
Oh,
I used to just use a flip phone and I didn't want anything to do with going online. I got this smartphone back in February because that's when I decided to work on making this app, and I figured I was going to need a smartphone to do that.
yeah.
So
Yeah, you will.
I do. I have one. I'm getting used to it. This is the first time I've used it to get online other than my app. Other than that, I just use my computer.
Well, there's some things that actually work better on a phone, and then other things that do better on the computer. Um, yeah, like
You are
I like
right.
to, yeah, I like to go out, and every day look and see on my friends list and wish them happy birthday. It's their birthday today, and I can do that real easy on the computer, but on the phone, I haven't figured out how to get a list where I could do that and type in. I'd be yeah, I just use computer for that. So, but other things much easier on the phone.
I haven't got used to my cell phone too much yet, but these QR codes that everybody wants you to scan these days, I don't have any idea what the hell those things are for.
What they do is
So
they bring up when you scan them or take a picture of them, they'll bring up what the address is set up for. You can set them up a QR code, and you'd have you could scan it and it'll take you to that website or whatever. The only thing you have to be careful of is it'll take you don't know where it's taking you. Now, lots of take your phone up to hold it over the picture, and it will give you the address that you have the option of selecting it or not. If it doesn't take where you want, but it's kind of nice because you can do like on cards. I don't know if I have one handy here,
well, that's one of the reasons why I didn't like a
but
smartphone is because I didn't want to get in trouble with it.
yeah,
Going
yeah,
the
I had
wrong
to.
places, clicking on the wrong thing. It's like I don't even have a normal computer in my house. I have a Ubuntu operating system. This
Oh,
allows me this allows me to never have to worry about a virus because they can't they don't go after these small operating systems like that. So I can click on stuff on my Ubuntu, and if it brings up a malware or something, all I do is shut my computer off and restart it, and it's gone.
oh,
It it
yeah.
doesn't it doesn't attach it, um, to my. But it's also hotter because everything so much stuff is based on Windows operating system. There are programs that I can't get Zoom to load up on my Ubuntu. Um, it keeps telling me that it's not set up for it, even though they have a Ubuntu download. It won't download. So
Huh.
I'm glad you recommended my phone because I never thought of that. And every time somebody wants to Zoom me, I says, "Hey, we usually have to go to a Google meeting place instead of a Zoom."
Oh, yeah. Yeah, now you got it on your phone and it works just fine on your phone. Uh, it's as setting them up and running them, it's much easier on the computer because I just you know I just bring over to there and I have all the options right there handy. But on the phone, I haven't figured out where to get to everything on the phone because I almost never use my phone for a Zoom call.
Well, this is the first time, and don't ask me to go anywheres after when I'm using my cell phone. I can't do, some people can do two or three things.
Oh, yeah.
I can't use my cell phone and go to my address book and tell somebody a guy's phone number. I just haven't figured out how to do that yet.
Yeah. Well, and that's why I brought it up on here because it's easier to bring up on my
Oh,
computer than it is on a
yeah,
phone and
it's a
sharing the
bigger
screen,
screen.
and
Yeah.
it's more of a hassle to do it on your phone. So yeah, it's a we'll get some more because it seems that's a pretty cool little idea where you can take those pictures and you have some place to save them and get them organized, and you know.
Well, what I like best about it is the organization of my pictures. You know, I know I've only had it since August, but I put in my deer from last year, archery deer, and I put in my rifle deer last year. So if I want to show somebody a picture of what I shot last year, instead of going in my gallery to look for those pictures, I just go to my app and I just click on gun, deer gun, and it's just going to show me, it's only going to show me one deer because that's all I put in there. But if I click on archery deer, I'm going to have 9 because I shot 4 last year and I got 5 this year. So I can show them, you know, the pictures that I want without having to go look, scroll down through my gallery on my phone, just looking for those pictures. That's one of the best parts that I like it. And then again, I'm older, so it doesn't matter to me as much that, yeah, I'd like to know how many deer I shot in my lifetime. I'll never know that because the only thing that I would know is if I went through my house and my taxidermy shop, every deer I've shot that was a buck, I have the antlers and I wrote the year down on them. But I don't have, a story behind it. I know the first deer I shot in 1974 and that reached over 200 pounds. I know we had an inch of snow on the ground. That's all I can remember. Um, I was hunting with my brother and my father, but I don't remember anything else about that hunt. I don't even remember. I know the date. I wrote the date on that one, but I don't know if I'd have to look at a calendar. I don't know if it was a Thursday or Friday or the last day of the season. I'd have to look it up on a calendar. But at least with the app, I'm going to have all that information from here on in. And that's what's nice about it. We're only talking, quite a few years behind me. It's like somebody told me once, you got more Octobers behind you than you have in front of you. But somebody who's younger and wants, to know what they've shot, this is a good place to start. I know there's a lot of handwritten journals that people can buy, but those get lost. And most people don't lose their phones. And the thing about this app, it's like, I guess I didn't know this until I got a smartphone. You don't lose stuff if you lose your phone because the companies that you have your phone through, they actually store all this information so you don't lose a lot of stuff. And this app is the same thing. All these pictures and everything is stored in the cloud on either Apple Store or Google Play, which I have to pay for anyways, you know. So they don't lose it. The only thing they lose is if they stop paying for it. They can't access it after a year. Their photos automatically get deleted, but they have a year to renew if they want to keep all the information and stuff. And we may change that, but it's all a matter of how much I want to pay, Apple and Google Play to store this stuff.
Right.
If I have, we'll just say 1,000 people that don't renew, I'm paying for all their storage up there for every year that they store it up there until right now it's automatically deleted after a year. So hopefully people will like it and keep renewing it.
Yeah, that's kind of nice. So you have access to it no matter which phone you're on, and then once you store them, you always have the option. You have them on your phone anyway. The pictures on your phone anyway. So do you have an
Yeah.
option to download the pictures and the notes?
You can't download the notes. The only thing that you can save is the pictures. And um, you can also text the pictures to anybody from your app, but you can also save them to your gallery so you have them. But they're also, saved on the app. But we can't. Everything costs money to make something, and
Right.
this app, if what I'm going to do is one of the things that, and I've only got, like I said, 31 people since August. And actually, like I said, there was only 26 as of last night. There is an option, but it's six to $10,000 to add this option to this app, which is I think is a lot of money, but to allow videos to be made with this app. But right now, I'm not going to pay that until I get subscribers that actually say they want it. We've
Right.
made a few changes since it got made, but right now I'm not. I'm happy with the way it is. There's no bugs in it. I have everything the way that I envisioned it, and we're just going to leave it at that until hopefully what I'm going to do is I can download all the emails of my customers, and when I get more, I'm going to send out an email to them asking them what they would like to see in the app, if they want something changed. But until I get volume, I'm not going to do that just because it's the cost of changing things.
Right.
And every time we change it, Google Play is pretty good. They will review it and upload it. Almost every time we change something, it goes to the Apple Store and they reject it. And then the developer has to, I didn't create this. I paid professionals. The developer has to go find out why. And sometimes it's only a simple thing of they didn't put a character in where they should have. And it's really time consuming. And every time that they reject it, the developer takes more time to fix it. And it just adds, at $50 to $100 an hour, it just adds to the cost of an app.
Right.
So right now, it's going to stay like it is. I have the opportunity to change my homepage, which right now it just says fall hunting season soon. And that's the only thing that I can change on the app without having to go through Apple Store or Google Play. Um, Pretty sure I got all the keywords straightened out. We changed some of the keywords. I never wanted to refer to this as a diary, but some people have told me, well, it's like a diary. It is. It's like a journal. It's like a diary. So we went and add hunter's diary or sportsman's diary and oops, kicked my stand here. So we've added the word diary in the diagram and into the keywords just because it's been people have referred it to that. I didn't want to call it a journal because if you do a search for a hunter's journal, there's a lot of journals out there that people have written and or created that people can have, and they just fill in the pages and stuff. So it's one of them things when you create. Why did you come up with Archery Talk 101? It's hard to come up with a title. So, and people told me I shouldn't have named it Wildlife Harvest because people that are non-hunters could use this as a diary or a journal for their life. It's like I had somebody who says to me that, I have two kids. We go to football games. He's in football. Take pictures of them when he goes to the games, and every game that we go to that he plays in, I could put it in there. And I said, go right ahead. So it says wildlife on it instead of, it doesn't, we actually used to have where it says my event, he used to say my hunt. So we took that out and we took out where it says um, add event, used to say add hunt. So we took the word hunt out of everything that's on the app except for the homepage that I can change things to whatever I want. And it's a hunting app mostly. It can be used for fishing. So, but we got rid of some of the stuff that try to get away from. And it's like I have a friend that's going to use it. He's a clock repairer, and he's going to take pictures of all his clocks. And I mean, he restores 150, 200-year-old clocks, and he's going to take pictures of them and he'll be able to put some notes into them. He said he's got pictures of some of the clocks he's repaired, but he doesn't have pictures of all of them. But he's going to be able to now create notes for the clocks that he fixes. And I never knew, well, I never knew how many clocks makers there was out there. He's working on a clock that was made here in Maine that the guy only built four of them. and it's got 8 functions, and he hasn't figured it out yet how to get it to work. But you know, that's one of the things that he's using it for. So it doesn't have to be just. Unfortunately, the name kind of can scare people off. But hey, it is what it is. We'll just kind of leave it like that for now. And I've often told people that if this takes off good, I've got all the code. I did copyright the code. So all we got to do is go change the title and some words, and we can make a app that's a general diary for people or a general journal for people.
Right.
But that's down the road, and that's not going to happen until this here takes off to where I'm making enough that I can spend money on something that I want, like another app.
Yeah. Well, and in marketing, the broader you make your market, the less chance you have of actually getting what you want. you know, get down to a niche.
Yeah,
You want it to wildlife harvest, to hunters and trappers and fishermen that are actually going out there and killing and eating animals and fish and whatever. But doesn't mean it can't be used for other stuff. But you focused on the hunters and start
well,
there
yeah,
and like you said, do another app with a different name, different focus.
and and the reason I both get on hunters, I've been a hunter all my life. I started legally started hunting when I was 10 years old in Maine. Now there's no age limit, and there's enough, especially whitetail hunters. I mean, there's millions of people who whitetail hunt, just
Oh yeah.
whitetail alone. And then there's all the now. What do you have in Nebraska that you can hunt besides whitetail? Do you have mule deer?
Yeah, we got if you go out in the western part of Nebraska, there's mule deer.
Do you have
Um,
antelope?
yeah, we've got antelope out in the western part as well, the mid and western part in there. So you've got deer and the antelope. Um, we don't really have much. I think way out next to the Colorado border, we might have some elk a little bit. We've got some sheep that we can hunt once in a while. All draws for those,
Yeah,
lottery system. But it's mostly going to be whitetail, mule deer, and antelope is the three main ones we have here.
but
If we
just
get
just
moose down
going
here,
after
they're
whitetail. Yeah,
yeah,
just going after whitetail hunters. I know that there's enough out there that that can take this app and run it up to where I can get. My goal is to get 10,000 people in the next 5 years. And it's like anything else. Sometimes things go viral and they just explode. That would
yeah,
that would be great, but I'm not going to count on it. Um, but my goal is 5 years. It's kind of like a retirement thing. I'm looking at it. 5 years, 10,000 people. That you figure that out of the what is it, 10, 15 million deer hunters in this country. That's
oh
that's a
yeah.
small that's a small percentage. So
And you could have very easily went after one just my whitetail harvest, and you'd have you've got a big market for there. Um,
but
but
then you're eliminating all the others. So
right,
why not target all the hunting to begin with, whether it's elk or mule deer or sheep, or moose. I mean, moose is, I've been picked once in Maine. Moose is a lottery. A lot of states have lotteries. But I didn't want to, like you says, I got a niche. I'm going after the hunters, but I didn't want to break it down too much to where it's like, look at the duck hunters out there. That's a big,
oh
big group
yeah,
of hunters, too. And I haven't specifically targeted them. They are listed in my description and stuff. My logo has a picture of a duck on it. It doesn't really have a picture of a deer just because we're trying to make it look for everything. So we just put deer antlers in there. But it's hard to pinpoint sometimes certain things. Um, I've tried to advertise it on some of the duck hunters Facebook pages, and it's surprising how much people reject your stuff. Um,
right.
you can't. A lot of Facebook pages don't want you to advertise at all on them. So you just got to go after the places that you can
Yeah.
post it without getting rejected.
Well,
and
and
I ain't found any
I
duck
have two
ones yet.
pages. I have two pages that I run. Arch Talk 101, and I don't allow
Yeah,
people to advertise on there. And then I have another one, Retired in Style, which is another group, and that's all dealing with retirement stuff. And I don't allow you to post any any ads in there either. And the quickest way to get banned from that group is to add something about stocks or crypto or
yeah,
financing. That's the quickest
yeah.
way to get deleted and banned. And the quickest way to get deleted and banned in the Archie one is post a t-shirt for sale. Yeah,
But you
you know,
know,
if that's your
it is
first
what it
post,
is.
yeah,
It's just got to go out there and you got to find the pages that allows you to post and post. You know, I don't post. I Louisiana whitetail. I think I post on that. I'm pretty sure it's Louisiana whitetail. Another one is Kentucky. Um, but I only post like twice a week on it. I don't flood it. Um, there's a bunch of Facebook pages that I go and explore. I think the whitetail addiction doesn't allow me. I've got a list of the ones that do and the ones that don't, and I just stay away from them. And but I just like I said, I hired a firm to advertise for me. They just kicked it off last week, so we're gonna see what happens. And then I talked with a guy who's made $30 million before his 30th birthday, and he basically told me when he gets a chance, he's busy. He just sold his business, and he says once he gets a chance, he says I'll help you out. Unfortunately, I don't like it, but I have to live with it. But you understand what I'm going to say.
yeah,
Sometimes you get ahead because of who you know.
yep,
And that's a case with this guy. I know a really good friend of his, and he talked with him, and he told me, he says, the best thing for you to do right now is advertise it. He says, hire a firm, get it out there, get your name out there. He says, and when I get a chance, because he just sold his business, he says, I'm in the process of changing it over. He says, take about a month. He says, I'll see if I can help him out promoting it. So it's a case of who you know sometimes, or being in the right place, the right time. Couple things. So,
yeah,
and I learned one thing a long time ago. Don't be afraid to ask a question. It's like I hunt in the expanded archery in Maine. We talked about that earlier. And in Maine, you got to get permission to put a tree stand or a camera on somebody's property. And when you're archery hunting, I usually hunt in a tree stand. So I'm not afraid to go knock on doors and ask permission. I'd rather get a no than never know. And one of the places that I got this year, I actually send letters out to people too instead of knocking on doors. One of the places that I got the archery hunt this year, because I wrote a letter, the lady only owns 6 acres of land. I actually shot 3 deer in 3 days. I shot one Monday morning, one Tuesday evening, and another one on Wednesday evening. And I told her I didn't want to shoot any more does there. I want to shoot a buck. She called me up the other day and she's got a 6 and an 8 pointer that walked by her motion detector at 12:30. And I said, well, that doesn't help me. It's 12:30 at night. But at least I know they're in the area. So I'm not afraid to ask questions. It's just like when somebody told me about you, I'm not afraid to ask you. Of course, I've never done a podcast before, but I'm not afraid to ask. So, but you had my friend on the other day, Nathan
yeah,
Fenderson.
yeah.
So he's quite a good hunter, him and his son.
Well, and I post these videos in the Arch Talk One on Facebook group, and we're advertising your app and other stuff out here during the podcast. So that's the only way you're going to get advertisement in the group. And there's like I think 1,400 members in that group right now. Uh, and then, of course, right now I'm going live in my profile, which there's about 5,000 people in my profile that's going to get notified. That's so it gets out there and anything to help with archers. And I always tell my archers, they're getting on the podcast. And it's like if you have a business, we're going to promote it. If it's archery related or not, I don't care. We'll start talking about archery and stuff and promote your business. It's all
Most
here
of
to
them
help.
deer, most of them deer hides behind me were all been shot with archery.
Oh,
I've only shot, I've only shot two. See, of course, the expanded archery in Maine, down along the coast, you can shoot. They give you one. You can buy one buck tag, but you can buy as many doe tags as you want. So basically, I've shot 5 does down there. I mean, I could go out and buy 5 more doe tags. I have one that I just bought because when I'm hunting now for a buck, if I see a 120-pound doe or something, I'm probably going to shoot it because I have a friend that wants some deer meat. But when it comes to rifle hunting in Maine or gun season, whatever you want to call it, or the regular archery season in Maine, you are only allowed one buck. So I don't get a lot. I'm not going to get a lot of hides to make the buckskin if I just, shoot one deer a year with my gun.
Oh
So
yeah.
I can shoot 2 bucks if I'm lucky enough to shoot. The last buck I shot in the expanded archery was in, let's see, 3 years ago when I was 64. I shot a 6-pointer, and then I shot 2 does that year. So, it's like some states you can shoot, I don't know, Nebraska. I don't know the laws about Nebraska, but I mean, one buck in Maine, that's it. You're done hunting. So I like hunting. That's why I got into archery hunting. And like I said, I started when I was 14, 15 years old. Didn't shoot my first deer until I was 84. So I was 27 and stuff. And the bad part about when you're younger, work gets into your hunting.
Yeah.
It really, and the bad part, I quit my job in 1984 and I went into taxidermy full time. Now, taxidermy also interferes with my hunting because now, and being a one person operation, I had to be in my shop to take in the work. And when I used to work before I quit my job, I did taxidermy. I started taxidermy like in 74, 73. And I was working after I graduated from high school in 75. And I would have an answer machine and it would say, "Hello, this is Dennis Theriault. If you got something you want mounted, I'll be home at 5 o'clock and bring it over after 5 or I'll call you back." And I would get home, I would listen to all my messages, write them all down. Then I'd pick up the phone and start calling people. And for some reason, some people didn't listen because I would call people and they would say, "Well, you didn't call me back, so I brought it to somebody else." Well, I didn't say this to them, but geez, my answering service said I wouldn't be home till 5 o'clock. So I knew I was losing work when I wasn't home.
Right.
So when I quit my job in 84, I made a commitment to make a living out of it that I only went hunting until 8 o'clock, 8:30 in the morning, and then I came home. Even if I sat in my shop all day and didn't take in a deer head, I had to be here to answer the phone. And I was able to run a taxidermy business from 84 all the way until 2017 when I gave it up because I had started, we had some bad years in the early 2000s where we had snow. We were shooting 30,000 deer a year. And we had 2 bad winters. And I think it was in 06 and 7. And then, the stock market kind of crazy in 2008. We went from shooting 30,000 deer a year in Maine down to 18,000 by,
Oh,
by the middle, I think right around 2000. I think the low was 2014 or 15, and it didn't creep back up. We never hit 2000. We never hit 33 until 3 years ago. So my deer heads, I used to do 100 deer heads a year. It went all the way down to where I was only doing 30 or 40 deer heads a year. So I started looking for something else to do to make an income. And I got into wildlife animal control in 2015. And that took off really good. And I was making, in 2 years, I was making more in wildlife animal control than I was in taxidermy. So I told my wife, I don't need to work 2 jobs. So
no.
I quit taxidermy and worked until I was 65 and then sold that business. And now I'm retired. I've been retired for 2 years. I retired in, actually, I retired in April of 2023. And we all make mistakes in life. I wish I'd have got into it earlier, but it just happens. So I was able to never work for anybody. but I had to give up stuff. And when I
Yeah.
retired, I told my wife, I'm going to hunt more. And that's what I do. That's why I shoot as many deer as I do. But it also means I, it's like you've learned over the years probably where to go deer hunting that's better places. And I've learned that if I can find good places to hunt, I can shoot more deer than if I'm going to a place where it's not as productive, where I only see one deer in 3 or 4 days, where now I see deer almost not every day, but I would say in a course of 6 days of hunting in a week, I'm going to see at least 3 or 4 different times I'm going to see deer. So that's the reason why I've been productive is because I look for better places.
Yeah, it always helps when you have a spot that, holds a lot of deer that move during the day, and that always makes it a little nice. But yeah, it's yeah, it changes, every year. Here in Nebraska, you talked about we can have two tags that allow you to take a buck. And a
Yeah.
regular archery tag is either sex. Muzzle loaders either sex. So if I get regular archery tags, I can only get two tags. Now, what they have here
So
in Nebraska is they have a season choice, which is an antlerless tag, and you can have as many of those until they run out of them. They used to not have a limit on them, but now they have a limit of there's quite a few of them. So if you wait to the last minute, the season's half over, you may not be able to get another tag. But if you can go buy 5 of them if you wanted. When I had my store as a deer check station, and I know guys that legally shot 20 plus deer, because
see
they
in
go out and buy
Maine,
another tag, buy another tag, and but they're all
you
antlerless.
in Maine, they changed the system in Maine where they give like 150,000 antlerless tags, and it's all broken down to zones. And we'll say I live in zone 20, and they gave out, I don't know, I'm trying to think. We'll say they gave out 8,000 tags this year. And we'll say that only 7,500 of them applied for those tags. That means they got 500 extra tags. And then they have a day in October where you can go in, you have to go online and you can buy the extra tags. But it's a first come, first serve basis. And believe me, you're on hold. Once that they open up the thing at I think it's 9 o'clock, you can be on that internet for 2 hours before it gets to you. And by the time it gets to you, those 500 could be gone. But you got other zones like zone 24 where I'm only like 10 miles from zone 24. You can probably buy tags today for that. They never sell them out. But it's also harder hunting down there because it's a smaller zone. So they give out a lot of tags in hopes that people will shoot more. But being that it's hard hunting down there, you don't have a lot of area to hunt. A lot of people don't hunt it. So yeah, but the best thing is archery hunting because then you can shoot as many does as you want. But it's also like I said earlier, having the best place.
Yeah,
You know,
it's all about
you
having
know,
having a good spot to go.
that's the bottom line with anything. I don't care what you're hunting. I'm not going to say, but if you were hunting in a freaking zoo, you'd be in heaven. But you find a good spot where the deer are plentiful and they travel through this one small narrow area and you set up. Yeah, that's why I shot 4 deer, well 3 deer in 3 days down in this 6 acre thing because. But when I'm sitting there, I can see one, two, three, four. I can see 5 different houses. I'm hunting 6 acres, and I'm hunting close to the border, and I can see houses all around me. I'm legal because of where I'm hunting, but you got to be, you got to be willing to hunt next to houses, and I just deal with it. I mean, the bad part about it is you got people that break the law in Maine by sneaking in and hunting these places without permission, and if they walk into a piece of property with a climbing tree stand and they don't have permission, but they can legally hunt it because it's not posted. But the minute they carry that tree stand in there, they're breaking the law because you're supposed to have permission to use that tree stand. And a climbing tree stand is a tree stand.
Yep.
But because they walk in with it and they take it out, the only time that they would get caught is if somebody caught them in there when they're using it. So, but I use a ladder tree stand. I bring it in before the season open and put it in, and I don't take it out until the season's over, whether I use it or not. One lady, um, the first deer I shot this year, I have 3 landowners that I hunt. I ground it all up and cut it into steak, and I shared it between all my 3 landowners. And this one lady says, "Well, you haven't even hunted here yet, and you didn't shoot nothing here." I says, "That doesn't matter." I says, "It takes me a year. This is the first time I get to hunt there." I says, "It might never be a good spot, but I says I may hunt it next year." And I just share my first deer. I don't keep. I share it.
Well, and that way, you didn't even hunt, but you're still giving them some stuff. So, if
Yep.
they want it, the two places I have, neither one, they don't want the deer meat anyway. So, there's nothing to share with them. But, um, it's like, hey, you want some sugar? Want something? It's like, no, no, okay, we're good.
Well,
But
I've hunted all my life, and I haven't bought meat. And then my wife won't eat anything that I shoot, so she has to buy her own meat. And it's just one of them things that I don't mind sharing. I mean, I've been fortunate, been a good enough hunter to get deer and not have to buy any. And I filled my freezer up this year. Even the moose my son shot, he still lives home, and we gave probably 60% of that, 70% of that away just because I'd already shot 5 deer and I gave 2 of those away. And actually, I gave 3 of them away and only put 2 of them in my freezer. So I got enough meat for this year and into next year.
so do you process it yourself or do you take it in and have it done?
I cut it up myself only because because I did taxidermy for years. I have a walk-in cooler, and I started cutting up my own deer back probably around not long after I graduated from high school. I graduated in 75. Actually, the deer I shot in 79, somebody cut it up for me. But I think after that, I had bought a grinder and I had a cooler put in for my taxidermy and stuff. Even though I was only doing it part time, I put a cooler in because when I was working, I just couldn't skin stuff out when people brought it over after work. So I would throw it in the cooler, and that was one of the things that people that are in business for themselves, sometimes they can't make it because they don't work enough. I mean, I used to work driving truck. I used to drive 12 hours from 5 to 5 and come home, and I'd work till 10, 11 o'clock at night skinning deer heads out. But that was only in November pretty much. And so that's why I needed a cooler to keep the stuff from spoiling until I scun it out. So after, yeah, I'd say around 1980, I started processing my own and stuff. So it makes it easy that I got a cooler because I can go down there and take a quarter out or a shoulder out and cut it up. And most of my deer goes into hamburg, sausage, stew meat, or roast. Uh, my son doesn't like steak, and my wife won't eat anyway. So, but we're having tenderloins for supper tonight, moose tenderloins. But that's about the only steak that I cut is off the back straps and the tenderloins. That's it. But yeah, I cut it up and I save myself a lot of money. I mean, deers, I don't
Yeah.
know what they pay out there, but deer over here, 150 pound can cost you up to $200 to get it cut up.
Yeah, I don't know what they're charging anymore now because I haven't taken one in for decades. Um, in fact, the first one that we cut up, my brother and I, my cousin over in Iowa says, "Hey, if you guys cut this up, you can have half the meat if you want to cut it up and wrap it up for me." It's like, okay, we'd never done it before. We didn't know what it was doing, but we cut it up and we took half of it and give him the other half, and he was happy and it's like, hey, we learned how to do it. And since then, I've taken a couple in, but I don't like the way they do their ground because they throw the fat and the sinew and all
And
the
that's
tendons
right.
in there, and it stinks when it cooks.
And that's the whole thing about cutting it up yourself. You can take the time to cut all that stuff out. And then the other thing that a meat cutter told me years ago, if you want to have good hamburger, you got to grind it 3 times. So
Oh yeah.
I have a big commercial meat grinder that I bought right around 1980, and it's a secondhand stuff, and it still works. And I grind all my hamburg 3 times. And people that I've given my hamburg to says, "How come you have such good hamburg?" And I said, "It's 2 reasons. The first reason is I grind it 3 times. The second reason is I cut almost 98% of the fat out. And the tendons in some of the tendons are there, but what you do with the tendons is you cut it up into stew meat. So when it goes into stew or roast, it falls apart and you throw the tendons away. So it's a process of learning how to cut stuff. And then over the years, like I says, I knew a lot of meat cutters that would cut deer and butchers that butchered stuff, and they told me how to process stuff. And that's what's nice about it. It takes time to cut all the fat off, where if you're paying somebody to cut up a deer, they're looking at volume, so they're not going to cut as much fat off as I
Right.
would, or as if you do it yourself would. And I think, and I know times have changed. Back when I was a kid, I can remember walking across beaver bogs in November and it being cold. We don't have that cold weather anymore. When I first started taxidermy, people would bring me whole deer in that was frozen because they hung it outside and it froze. We hardly get any of that anymore because it's warmer. I mean, it's supposed to hit 75 degrees here next Wednesday, which is unheard of. I mean, we get 1 or 2 days like that in the whole month of November. Back when I was a kid, was it. But now we can get 3 or 4 of these days in a row sometimes. So having a cooler to put stuff in, and that's another thing a meat cutter told me. If you want something to age, you're supposed to hang it skinned out in a cooler. You The idea of letting something age is, I know it's a myth more than a reality, but I know people that say they like to hang a deer for a week, but you can't hang a deer for a week in Maine anymore because it's too warm unless you have a
Yeah.
cooler. And I hung a quarter of my son's moose, one hind quarter, in my cooler for a week to see if it would taste any different. And it doesn't. Um, but I don't cut no steaks. So cutting it into hamburger and grinding it doesn't make any difference. And going into a roast or into stew meat didn't change it. But he says, I thought you were going to cut steak out of it. And I says, no. I says, I don't eat any steak. My son won't eat it. Says it's too tough. And it could be just the way we cook it. I don't know how to cook a steak, but so that's why I got a cooler and that's why I cut up my own. But I had the cooler for my business and I utilize it to cut up my deer.
Yeah, it's nice to be able to have it where you don't have to do it all right away. And I know when we was doing it, we'd get our deer and we started just soaking the hide and cleaning it. And we found it the hide comes off real easy, and once you soak the hide, and it
Yeah.
just comes off really easy. And then we would basically hang it, um, you know, by the back legs, and we'd just start taking the hide off, and take the head off and then start taking back straps out, throwing them in buckets, and we just start deboning everything, and we're down and got the last one hanging, and also got his bones and skin, and then you can dispose of that, and now then you got to do something with the rest of it, finish doing the cleaning. And I know that when I'd make hamburger, I had one of those old hand grinders that wasn't
Yeah.
very big, and there was pure, it was 100% meat, because any
Yeah.
of the little sinew or any membranes or anything, it'd get stuck. You had to take the top off, you peel it off, put it back on, grind some more, and it'd quit grinding, and so you had to pull it off, pulled it. So you're doing a lot of that, but there's nothing in it but pure meat. It's
And that's a choice you have when you cut it up yourself,
Right.
you know. But not everybody has that option of having a cooler, or and like I says, I'm fortunate that I have a cooler, and I actually had a guy shoot a 164-pound buck with a bow the other day, and because it was warm and he cuts it up himself, he hung it in my cooler for 5 days until he could take it home and cut it up because I don't, he's retired, but I don't know why, but he wanted to let it hang for 5 days, so it did. And maybe it's just he didn't have, the time to cut it up because, well, he actually, since he retired, he actually does lawn cleanup and stuff, so he's probably cleaning up lawns. So that's what's nice about a cooler, but not everybody has that options. But I found when I shoot a deer, most of the time that deer, it's like my son's moose. That thing was skinned out 10 hours after we shot it. And we shot it 200 miles from home. By the time we got it out of the woods and to tag it and then drove home, it was in my cooler skinned out. And most of my deer, I skin out within an hour or two after I shot them because I get them, once I drag them out and get them home, I skin them out and throw it in the cooler. Because I was
Right.
told by a meat cutter, you want to skin out your animals as soon as you can and put them in a cooler. Have you ever been to a butcher shop where they kill pigs or cows and stuff, where they actually kill it, then they actually hang it, skin it out, gut it out, and it goes right in a cooler? So I've been told that if you want to have good tasting meat, skin it out as soon as you can and get it in a cooler. Don't let it hang. If you want to let it hang, they said let it hang in a cooler. I've never tried this, but I've heard that some of the most expensive meat in restaurants is something that's been hanging for 21 days. It it does something, it dries them out, and they're supposed to be tender. And the reason it costs so much, and I don't know what they call it, is because it's hung so long in somebody's cooler and it's taken space.
Right.
But they, I don't know why 21 days, but that's something that they must have researched but they said that this is only sold in high-end restaurants, and I don't even know what they said they called it. But it's expensive because it hangs so long. But the hamburger and roast, it doesn't have to be hung more than 24 hours, and then it can be start to be cut up.
Yeah, I know when I got my moose, I was cutting it myself and it was in coolers, to keep it cool. And I could tell by the time I finally got to the last part of it, it had been in probably about a week. And I could tell the color of the meat changed a little bit,
Oh yeah,
as well as the smell changed a little bit. It didn't get to where stinking or anything, but it changed a little bit. The color and the texture changed a
oh
little
yeah,
bit after sitting for a week. Now we cut a lot of them into steaks, and roasts. Some of the pieces, like the front legs and
yeah.
stuff like that all goes in the ground, and the back straps and the tenderloins, those always go into steaks. And then a couple of muscles on the legs will go into roasts, and then everything else kind of pretty much gets ground up. But yeah, that moose was really good.
Was that shot in your state?
No, that was actually shot in Canada, up in Ontario. Went up there for
Yeah.
a moose hunt with a friend of mine. He every year, every other year, he'd go someplace, and I went up there with him to on a moose hunt. And I had a cow tag. He was in a different zone with another guy, and um, they had a bull tag over there. I think he had a bull tag, but I had just a cow tag and ended up getting one, and it was really um, it took a while. And of course, I'd rather done archery, but this was rifle season. And when I finally did see one, I'd seen a few on vehicles leave, and we finally did see one. That's kind of the about the last day. We're in his truck, and where we was gonna go is down a big steep hill. And I get out and look at his bald tires. It says, "You're not going down." As we turn around, get on the way in, we'd passed these guy in this red truck, a couple of Canadians up there. They're hunting, and we come back, and they were there, and they had bull tags.
Yeah.
And they said there's a cow over there on that hill. So we go down the hill, and about halfway up the hill, this cow was standing there. And I was like, okay, because they couldn't shoot it. So I go out there, and I'm standing, doing my standing shooting, and I shot, and it just kind of Then moved a little bit and stopped again. I says, I must be shooting low. I'm a bow hunter. I'm used to shooting 20 yards, not
Yeah,
300.
yeah,
You know. So then I took my next shot, and this time it kind of jumped and just went a little bit more. So I got to be shooting low. So now I'm raising up. Now I'm aiming at the head height,
yeah,
and I shot and just fell over dead. Didn't take a step, just fell over. And
yeah,
I've told this story before on some, but um, the thing I discovered is when I was setting that rifle up, I borrowed a guy's rifle, was setting it up, and I was just slightly left at the 25 yards, which originally sighting in 100 yards. I was just a little bit left, and I was like, no, that's close enough. No, it wasn't. Not when you shoot
not at 300
yards.
yards.
So what I end up doing is we get it back, and we gutted it, and the liver is just huge liver. And on a moose, you got
Yeah,
about the size of a trash can lid in order for a kill
yeah,
zone. And so we get it. I've got the head off, and I still haven't found a bullet hole yet. And there's only one little bitty small drop about size of a safety pin. Just really small
yeah,
dot. It's all I found in the snow. And then I finally found it right at the base of the skull. I hit the spine. Now I was aiming, right over the normal kill zone behind the front leg. And
yeah,
then I started thinking later, it's like, oh, when you're off by a quarter of an inch at 25 yards, you're
yeah.
off by feet at 300.
Yeah.
But
Well,
that's some of the best meat I've had
yeah,
is that move.
it is. So you're gonna wrap this up, or
Oh yeah, yeah, we've been going. That's whenever we have you get talking and you never know. And
oh,
yeah, we've
you
been
know what
about an hour and
happens?
a half.
You know what happens when hunters start talking?
Yeah, yeah.
There's so many stories behind a hunter that you could talk on probably for 24 hours and never say the same thing
Oh
twice.
yeah, yeah. Well, with the paid version of Zoom, I can go 30 hours, but I'm not talking that long. I can't stay awake that long. But
I don't think I could too. Not at this
I
age.
I actually had one by the time we got done, we realized that we'd been talking for 4 hours. But most of them go an hour and a half is right about most hour and a half to two. And it's you get in, there's just so many things, we talk about, and next thing you know, it's like, oh, we better get off of here.
Well, Roy, I appreciate you letting me come on here.
Yeah, I've enjoyed having you on, and like I said, we'll put a link to that your app in the description for the podcast, and they make it easier for people to find, and we'll actually go out on my profile, and I can make
Well,
a link on the comments. They don't like
every
comments
little
in
bit
posts,
helps.
but yeah, we'll get some out there, and it's been really great talking with you. I really enjoyed it, and I'm sure we can get on here again and do this again once the app gets kicked off, and will keep us updated what's going on. And if you're not in the group, go ahead and join the group, and there may be somebody ask questions about it, and we'll send them your way. And
Well, I'll go join your Archery Talk 101 and I'll see what else you got and join them. I don't mind joining stuff because you never know who's gonna see something and then they go and they download the app or they got questions and you can answer it. There's no such thing as a stupid question. If somebody don't know the answer, don't be afraid to ask.
I've said that many times. The only stupid question is the one you haven't asked.
That's right.
Because if it's a question, somebody else has got the same question. So ask it.
Yep.
Now, if you're
Yep.
asking it 10, 15 times, now we're going to talk about the fact that you're not paying attention. But
So don't I learned something though a long time ago. You gotta be really careful when you ask a question on Facebook because you're gonna get some stupid answers. And you got to just learn to just go past the stupid stuff and just look for the right comment or right answer.
yeah, there's so many, especially in archery, there's some other groups I used to go in once in a while, and somebody post a video. It's like, well, how's my shooting, or how's my form, or whatever, and people would say, well, just practice more. That is the dumbest response. Practice
I'll
more.
tell you, I'll tell you how your shooting is. Show me what you kill, and then if you kill a lot of stuff, then you're doing a good shooting.
Yeah,
I knew a guy years ago that could win archery competitions, but every time he went deer hunting, he would miss deer or he would wound them and not find them. And it's a case of I just think it's a case of he's so nervous when he's got in front of a deer
right.
that he just shakes too much and he can't place a good shot.
Yeah, yeah, that's that can be it too, where you just it's different. Like
It
somebody that
is.
does great in target but can't do 3D. Somebody that hunts good, but if you're a good hunter, you probably can do 3Ds because it's all kind of about the same. Because you still have to judge yardage and pick your spots, but the spots you pick on a foam target is not the same spot you pick when you shoot a live animal.
I've never done a 3D shoot. I've only ever hunted a tiger practice in my backyard, and that was it. But I learned to kill deer, and that's all that counts in my book.
Yeah. Oh, you're a hunter first.
That's it.
Well, it's been great talking with you. My name is Rory Canterbury. I've been the host today on Arch Talk 101 with Dennis as our special guest, talking about his new app, a good place to store your pictures and good place to keep your bragging pictures. But yeah, it's been a lot of good information. We was able learn a little about creating buckskin and a lot of good information today. I really enjoyed talking with you, and it's been a lot of fun. And for
Well, I
those
appreciate it.
still listening, remember go out to Arch Talk 101 Facebook group. Join that one. We have a lot of archers. We have Bowtechs out there. We have instructors. If you have a question about archery, post it. If you're not sure if you're something's wrong with your form, post it. We got instructors, that can take a look at it and give you ideas. You can listen to the podcast on Spotify as well as go to audible.com. There you can listen to them for free. You don't have to pay for the podcast. And then remember, go out to my YouTube channel, Learn to Fix Yourself. We have the podcast goes out there. Also have some different tips on shooting form as well as how to work on your bows and even how to make strings and all kinds of stuff out there. So go out there and take a look at that, and we'll catch you on the next one. This one will come out here, I think, in a couple days here. This one will come out, and we'll see everybody in the next one. It's been great talking with you today, and we'll see you later.